evening, everyone present here. We welcome you to today's webinar on today's topic 19 on topic hacking your brain to develop healthy habits by Miss Munaza. She is from IBDP. She is psychology facilitator, Bahrain, and we are glad to have you, ma'am, here. We welcome you on the behalf of Mansa Subakara Mind Care, Hyderabad, Yellow Pond Counseling Center, Hyderabad, Forest Creative Arts Studio, Punjab. Over to you, Sudha, ma'am, for intro.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Shweta. I'm very pleased to welcome Ms. Munaza, who is a IBDP psychology facilitator and theory of knowledge coordinator at IBN Khaldoon National School, Bahrain. She has completed Masters in Psychology and postgraduate diploma in counseling. Then worked as a school counselor and psychology teacher at various schools in Hyderabad for over 7 years. Currently, she is working in Bahrain for the past 3 years, and she enjoys working with children as well as young adults and marvel at how human brains develop in unique ways and are capable of such complex functions. Today's topic is hacking your brain to develop healthy habits. So eager to know know the details of this topic, ma'am. Welcome you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. Right, so I will start with sharing my screen first. Just a second. Right, so there's something that ma'am just told that I'm really interested in, and it really fascinates me to think of how the brain can actually work so well, doing so many complex things, and that we don't even know about these things. We don't notice these things at all. These things just keep happening. And it's such a marvelous thing to think about. So it really fascinates me to think how we can actually use our brain to trick ourselves to do something that we really want to do. Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, it is.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. All right. So let's start with hacking the brain to develop healthy habits. Now, let's start with what a habit is. What do you think a habit is? Can we write in the chat, please? What do you think a habit is?
It is something which we do regularly, ma'am, on a daily basis. Something which we do on a daily basis.
Right. So something that we do on a repeated basis or something we do daily. And we don't even have to think about these things sometimes. They're just so automatic. Now, we all know what a habit is, but these are, we need to remember that these can be positive or negative. Now, you might notice throughout the presentation that there are a lot of things that we already know, but knowing something but not doing it is one thing, and knowing something and being aware of it and then taking an action is another thing. So if you feel you already know some certain things, but you just need a reminder to do it, that would be great. If you think you have not known about this and you think you could just follow it, that would be fantastic. So throughout the presentation, just remember that we're talking about things that could be beneficial to everyone in general. So let's talk about habits, which are repetitive actions or behaviors, and these can be both positive and negative. A simple thing that we can focus on right now is drinking more water. We all talk about it, but it's not very easy for us to remember to drink water, right? So a simple thing as drinking water can also make a huge difference, but we know it, but we don't do it so often, out of habit or not doing it at all, because we have other things to focus on. Now, according to statistics, we spend 43% of our daily life, our daily behaviors are a result of our habit. So it could be something as waking up on time, the same time every day, sleeping on the same side of the bed every day, or locking the door in a particular way every day. It could be anything. But if you notice, most of our daily work is based on our habitual actions. Another thing we can talk about is 90% of regular exercisers report a set time or place to exercise. So we are a person, we are creatures of habit. Humans want to have a set routine to our lives, which is why we tend to do things in a regular fashion each day. And people who regularly exercise prefer a set time and place. 40% of the long-term habit goals are given up within the first 3 weeks. I'm pretty sure we have all been through that. It's not very easy to start a new habit and stick to it very easily. So most of us give it up. And on an average, it takes about 66 days to form a new habit. I don't know how motivating this is because it's a long period, 66 days on an average. So if you really want to develop a new habit, then you have to be patient. Otherwise we give up very soon. Now, let's take 60 seconds to write down as many words as you can think of when you think of habits. What comes to your mind? You can write as many words as you want. Right, we have 60 seconds. Atomic habits, interesting. Micro habits, okay. What words come to our mind when we think of habits? Okay, routine, regular exercise, diet, food habits, yes. It's hard to keep a habit. They're repeating and they require discipline, yes. And they're regular and they're very automatic, right? Okay, 20 seconds more. Good habits and bad habits. Interesting. Monotonous act, yes. Anything which is done automatic, yes. All right, so we're almost there. Right, time up. Okay, regular habits and repeatedly. We do things repeatedly, yes. Thank you, everyone. So we looked at all the things that came to our minds when we thought of habits. They're very regular and they're automatic, and they might be difficult, they might be challenging. So we have a lot of things related to habits in our minds, but I want you to remember that habits are formed for a reason. Like we do certain things out of habit because of a few reasons. First thing is they are energy savers. Imagine if you have to do the same thing every day with the same effort. So imagine tying the shoelace with, as if it was the first time you were tying it every day, or locking the door every day as if it was the first time you were locking the door, or taking the path to your office or to your school or wherever you want to go. Out of habit, when we do certain things out of habit, it's easier for us to do. We don't have to put in so much effort. It just makes it very easy, and we kind of, we run on autopilot when we're doing these habits. So it doesn't take much energy. And while doing so, we focus on what's more important. So certain things out of habit, we just do it, but we focus our energy to do certain things which are more important to us. Like, it could be doing something for the first time, or catering to an emergency. It could be anything that requires more energy. So you keep your habits, you run it on autopilot, and you focus more on what's important. And also, these habits lead to goals. Like there are certain small goals that we don't focus on. Like for example, when the child is learning to walk, out of habit, it's very natural for them to just learn to get up after every time they fall and they walk. Or it could be something as simple as tying their shoelace. It shows children, as we are growing up, when we were children, we learned these habits. After regularly practicing these things, they became our habits, and it doesn't take any effort now. But back then, these were things that made us independent, right? It helped us be on time at different places. So if you are a person who has to get up at a certain time, do things in a regular fashion, it leads you to being somewhere on time. It leads you to getting things done on time. So these things actually help us. Now, when we think of habits, the first thing that came to my mind was smoking, drinking, bad habits, diet, right? You have to push yourself to do certain things, but not always. Simple things are done with habits, because we want to save more energy for the ones that may need more time and effort. So we start with things that are habitual, which help us become more independent or be on time or stick to a plan. So habits are not always bad. They are actually there for a reason, but we end up making them positive or negative. So basically, motivation is what gets you started, but habit is what keeps you going. So you might start something, But if you don't develop a habit for it, you won't sustain. So it's nice to develop positive habits for a longer time. Now, I say your brain is plastic, not because it's made of plastic, but because it's something that can keep changing. Now, the property of plastic is it can keep changing. It changes its shape and form. The more you try to mold it, the more it gets molded. Just like our brain. Our brain is actually very, very, very plastic, or it's so adaptable. You can adapt it in any way you want. And that's something I really, really enjoy reading about. So let's watch a quick video.
Not so long ago, many scientists believed that the brain did not change after childhood, that it was hardwired and fixed by the time we became adults. But recent advances in only the last decade now tell us that this is simply not true. The brain can and does change throughout our lives. It is adaptable, like plastic. Hence, neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. How does neuroplasticity work? If you think of your brain as a dynamic, connected power grid, there are billions of pathways or roads lighting up every time you think, feel, or do something. Some of these roads are well-traveled. These are our habits, our established ways of thinking, feeling, and doing. Every time we think in a certain way, practice a particular task, or feel a specific emotion, we strengthen this road. It becomes easier for our brains to travel this pathway. Say we think about something differently, learn a new task, or choose a different emotion. We start carving out a new road. If we keep traveling that road, our brains begin to use this pathway more, and this new way of thinking, feeling, or doing becomes second nature. The old pathway gets used less and weakens. This process of rewiring your brain by forming new connections and weakening old ones is neuroplasticity in action. The good news is that we all have the ability to learn and change by rewiring our brains. If you have ever changed a bad habit or thought about something differently, you have carved a new pathway in your brain and experienced neuroplasticity firsthand. With repeated and directed attention towards your desired change, you can rewire your brain.
Right. So, like I said, brain is plastic. It lets us adapt ourselves the way we want. So, on a positive note, on a positive note, we know that it's possible for us to create new habits. Now, sometimes we get bogged down. We think, okay, I'm not getting there. I'm not able to do what I want to do. There are things that I want to achieve, but I'm not able to achieve. I'm not happy with this habit of mine, but I'm not able to change it. We have these negative thoughts that we keep telling ourselves, and it demotivates us more. But on a positive note, now we know that it's 100% possible for us to adapt to new changes, to new habits that we want. We can rewire our brain the way we want. So if you've been doing certain things for a very long time, it's very possible that your brain has been used to that. But the more you try doing something else, over time, it gets easier for us. So, which is why I was saying it takes on an average 66 days to develop a new habit, because your brain undergoes a lot of changes. As you can see on your screen, these are neural connections of the brain, an image of the neural connections. So the more you use these pathways, the stronger they get. Suppose you learn to swim for the first time. The first day is going to be very difficult, but the more you do it, easier it gets. The same with driving or writing a new language or learning a new language. It could be anything that you start off. Initially, it's not going to work, but over the period of time, the more you do it, your brain gets used to doing it. So if you want to start a new habit, that's the good news. You can definitely do it. It is possible. And it's based on research that your brain can adapt to different situations the more you do it. Now, there's something called the habit loop that we all get into. Every time we have a cue or a trigger, for example, I'm tired, I want to have coffee, and having coffee will make me feel better. I will have more energy. The same way, if I'm bored, I might try to eat something. The more I'm bored at home, the more I open my fridge and look for something to eat. And that makes me feel, oh, now I'm comfortable, now I'm satisfied. So we get into this habit loop. If you've had a bad day, someone might have a bad day and they might want to smoke or drink, and then it makes them feel better. So no matter what emotion we are going through, we associate it with something that will give us a reward. So we keep doing this again and again and again because we want to feel the reward. We want to feel better. So we keep doing this again and again. We all get into this loop of habits. It could be anything. It's not just drinking coffee. You can reflect on what habits you go through. Anything that you're not happy about, your own behavior, your own habits, think about what is the trigger, what is the cue. Sometimes when you're sad, you might want to do certain things. And if you see, there is a pattern always. Whenever I feel sad, I do this and I feel better after that. When I'm angry, I do this and I feel better. So you have to reflect on the loop of habits that you have. What is it that triggers me? And then it leads to me doing certain things. And then I feel better after doing it. Just give yourself a minute to think about it. What is it that you don't want to continue as a habit? And what is triggering you? What is the cue that leads to this? And then we will share these. If you don't want to share, that's absolutely fine, but it would be great to talk about these. Let's start with feeling stressed. When you are stressed, what is the routine that you follow? Like when I feel stressed, I prefer to sleep. And when I wake up, I feel much relaxed. So what about you? Please write it in the chat. When you feel stressed, let's take only one emotion at a time, and then we'll go to the others. When you feel stressed, what is your routine? Like, what do you do to feel better? How do you feel afterwards? Just write these two things. Okay. You go for a long walk, drink water, and pray. I do outdoor workout. Wow, you're really lucky that you get to go outdoor for a workout. You start enchanting. Okay. So that is really nice. Does anyone have any negative habit? When you feel stressed, do you shout? Or when you feel stressed, do you postpone your work? When you feel stressed, do you eat more? Is there anyone who feels, yes, I think I do that too, right? I clean my cupboards. Wow, that's awesome. I eat chips. That's so true. Like I would binge eat when I'm stressed. You feel frustrated, yes. Generally, what we do end up doing is we don't really realize that we are feeling stressed. If you do, that's fantastic. If you're feeling stressed and you realize that you're feeling stressed and you do something positive to relieve it, that would be fantastic. But most of us are not even aware that we feel stressed, right? So we end up doing something that we will regret later, like eating chips or eating an ice cream, or it could be anything. It could be just yelling at someone. So that leads to you relieving the stress, but at the same time, you don't like it. Right? Let's go to feeling bored. What do you do when you feel bored to make yourself feel better? Feeling bored. You clean the room, you fold clothes, I shut myself down, okay. You listen to music, all right. Again, eat, yes. Eating is the solution to all problems. Watch YouTube comedy shows, yes. You read when you feel bored, okay. You engage yourself with some task. You draw, okay. Fantastic. So when you feel bored, there are things that you do. Now, I hope you're able to see the difference between feeling stressed and feeling bored, right? I know my son likes to eat when he feels bored. He doesn't realize that he's feeling bored. He's not feeling hungry, but he wants to eat. He just goes to the fridge and looks for stuff. And I realize, look, you're not feeling hungry because you just ate half an hour ago. You're feeling bored right now. So let's do something else to relieve your boredom and not eat. Feeling upset. Do we do anything different when you're feeling upset? Go for a drive, okay? Scroll through social media when you're bored, definitely. When you're feeling upset, when you're hurt, you clean when you're feeling upset, okay? Looks like cleaning is an option, yes. You pray, okay, when you're feeling upset. Cry it out, yes. Count your blessings and thank God, yes. Talk with strangers, interesting. When you're feeling upset because you don't want to talk to anyone you know already, okay? All right. So when you feel upset, you do your kind of thing to feel better. Good. Feeling happy. What do you do when you feel happy that makes you feel better? What do we do when we feel happy? What do you do especially when you're happy? Okay. Listen to music and thank God, become overly generous. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't, you would feel guilty about it later on. Yes, Mr. Suresh? Okay. You talk with your loved ones, you travel, fantastic. Okay. You offer gratitude and try to love everyone, make others happy, fantastic. So for me, when I feel stressed, I would eat. When I feel bored, I might eat. When I feel upset, I might eat. And when I feel happy, I might eat. So it might not be the same for everyone. The point is that we need to understand what is causing this feeling. Okay, so when you feel an urge to cry, for example, or overeat, for example, or get into anything that makes you feel guilty later on, go back a step and see what are you feeling at that time. Was it stress? Was it that I was angry? Or was it that I was bored? What led me to do these things? So always going back and looking at the feeling helps. And we need to understand that we constantly go into this loop. So breaking the loop helps in, understand, become a habit continuously. Okay, so generally what people do is, you might, if you're feeling stressed, you might eat a cookie. If you're, while you're chatting with a colleague or a friend, you might eat a cookie. Or when you're feeling bored, you might eat a cookie. So the point is that we might end up doing the same thing for different feelings. But on a positive note, if you want to feel better when you're feeling stressed, you might just, instead of eating a cookie, have green tea or have something that's more nutritious, which will still give you comfort instead of the cookie. When you're talking to your friends or colleagues, instead of having a cookie, again, have fruits. You have to make conscious choice, because now you're aware of the feeling, the reason why you're feeling that way. Now you have more control over what you're doing. Then your routine will change when you understand the cue or the trigger. So you make more positive, more healthy choices. And then when you're feeling bored, instead of eating, you look out of the window. It just will give you a better distraction instead of distracting yourself with food. So there's always power in your hands to change your routine based on the cues that you should know. Okay, so don't just think about, oh, I want to eat, or I want to do this, or I want to do this. Why do I want to do it? Think about that for a minute and substitute the negative routines with positive routines. Now, in the same direction, there's something called habit stacking. Now, we know that there are certain bad habits that we don't want to have anymore, but we can't change them. It's very difficult to change bad habits and just start off with a new habit, overnight. But there's something called habit stacking, which means you pair a new habit that you desire with something you already do every day. So, for example, you walk to school every day, or you take an auto every day, or there's a time where you are standing in queues, or when you're cooking. These are all habits, right? These are routines that we all do. Now, we don't have time. We never have time to start a new positive habit. We will never find time unless we are that motivated. But it's difficult to find separate time from your regular routine to start off a new habit. For example, I had been thinking of exercising for a very long time now, but it just doesn't work. I don't have time. I never have time. I'm working, I'm taking care of my house and all of that. And then I can't give time for exercising. But then when I try to stack my habit, it just makes it more easier. For example, you're cooking in the kitchen. You don't have to take time out to exercise separately. While cooking, you can randomly, start off with small stretches, or you can start with small exercises while you're standing. You don't have to take time out separately. While cooking, stack another habit with it, a new positive habit combined with something you do daily. So while cooking, try something that you had been doing, or if you had been thinking of drinking more water every day, if that's a simple habit you want to improve on, while eating or while cooking, have a glass of water. While you feed your kid, have a glass of water. While you're traveling, have another a sip of water from your water bottle. So these are something that we can easily combine together. We don't have to really wait for, separate time to start a new habit. Now, for habit stacking, first thing is you need to be aware of what habit needs to be changed. And then second, you have to be aware of what new habit you want to add. And then you have to pair them consciously, consistently with small steps. Sometimes what happens is we forget, and that's okay. If you forget, give yourself that space and time to come back. Start with small steps. Don't have big ideas immediately. When you start small, it definitely helps. And if you do it regularly, consistently, like I said, it creates a new pathway in your brain, and it's easier over time. And all of this will obviously cost you no extra effort. It's easier and it gives you the same reward. So combine two habits, one that you do every day plus something that you want. So you keep adding and adding and adding, it becomes just easier. Now, I want you to reflect again. I have been speaking for too long. So let's look at the steps to build a habit stacking routine. Okay. First, you don't have to share it. If you want, that would be great. But if you don't want to share, that's also fine. But I want you to reflect on this. First, list your current habit. Okay. Write down one action that you do every day. You can write it in the chat. You can write down on your phone or on a paper, but just think about it. One action that you do every day. Like it's a routine and you don't have to really think about it. Okay. Now, brainstorm new daily goals. List a new habit that you would like to do. So if you wrote down probably, I take an auto to my workplace or my college every day. That's something you do every day. Now link a new habit that you would want to do. Suppose you want to read more or drink more water or find a new routine for yourself. Okay, so first we do something that we do every day, and then now we think of a new thing that we want to do. Now create mini goals that are not difficult at all. Okay, you have to foolproof your new habits. Now it's very possible for us to get into the habit of, or just easily forgetting to do what we want to do or not finding enough time. But make it so simple. Break it down into such small things that you're able to do it every day. I hope you've thought about that. Now, add a new habit to an old one. Build your desired habit on top of the existing habit. So I want you to combine this and this in your mind. So if I travel by auto to my college every day, and I also want to read, I will use that time to read. Or if I'm working and I want to exercise, then I might just make it easier for me to exercise while I'm coming back from work. I go to the gym and then come back, or anything that works for you, a habit that you do every day and a new habit. Try to combine them. And yes, it's not going to be very easy initially. You have to stay consistent. And even if you have, you have days where you don't end up doing it, it's fine. You just have to stay positive and remember why you started it in the first place. Now, the reason you start a new habit consciously is because that's important to you. That's going to make a positive change in your life. So if it's that important, then we need to stick to it. So always remember your why. A very short video again. I hope you're all still with me.
If you're looking to make a lasting change in your life, you need to focus on changing your habits first. Here are James Clear's 4 laws of habit change from his critically acclaimed book, Atomic Habits. There are 4 parts to building a habit: the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. Every behavior starts with a cue. This cue then triggers a craving, which motivates a response. That response then provides a reward, which satisfies the craving and ultimately becomes associated with the cue. To make lasting changes to your behavior, you have to make changes at all 4 levels. This brings me to Clear's 4 laws of habit change. If you are trying to build a good habit, you need to make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. If you are trying to break a bad habit, then you need to do the inverse of these laws. Make it invisible, make it unattractive, make it difficult, and make it unsatisfying. If you want to learn more, check out the full-length video here, and let me know what habits you're trying to change in the comment section down below. If you're looking to make a lasting change in your life...
Okay. So there were a few things that he spoke about. When you want to change a habit, when you want to develop a positive habit, you have to remember 4 things. You have to make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. Now, think of a habit that you want to start, a positive habit. Again, if you want to share in the chat, then please go ahead. If someone wants to speak, please go ahead. If I was to think about exercising, how will I make it obvious for myself? Maybe I will put a schedule for myself somewhere where I can see it. Or I tell myself, I'm going to exercise for 10 minutes after work. So I put down a reminder for myself. It has to be visible. You have to make it obvious. Okay? Or keep a visual reminder for yourself. You have to make it attractive. I mean, why would you do something that you're not interested in? Okay, so if I want to exercise, again, I try to make it attractive by watching my favorite show while I'm exercising, or I listen to my favorite music when I'm exercising. So I have to make it attractive. I want to do it again and again, and then I make it easy as well. I don't end up doing everything on day one. It's not possible. I start small. Every time I try to develop the habit, I do 1% extra. That's all. Sometimes you don't have to look at 100%. You just start with 1% each day. That's all that takes for you to stay motivated. So when we look at the bigger goals, it's difficult for us to just take one leap and reach our goals. It's not possible. So we start with one tiny change every day. Just think about changing your routine 1%. That's all. So start with something small and keep it consistent. So you do 1% and don't forget about that 1% the next day. You start with 1%, the next you continue that 1% and add 1%, that's all. And then you make it satisfying. You should be feeling happy about what you're doing. So when you track your practice, for example, if I go back to exercise example again, if I have a chart where I'm tracking my progress, it makes me feel better. Yes, I'm sticking to my new habit. It's giving me some reward. It's giving me some satisfaction. So you either track it or you reward yourself at the end of a week for doing something consistently. So you have to remember to make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. Do we have anyone sharing anything in the chat? Okay, it would be effective if you can reward yourself with something till the habit is formed. Yes, so keep rewarding yourself. Don't wait for it to be completely achieved. You have to break it down and keep rewarding yourself. You have to make it satisfying. Yes, okay, fantastic. So yes, we can see how we all have habits that we want to either continue or have habits that we want to leave, or we want to develop a new habit. So regardless of what stage you are in or what state of mind you are in, these things will actually help. Now let's do this by ourselves. The same things, the same 4 things apply to negative habits also. If you want to develop a positive habit, you have to make it obvious. But if you want to if you want to stop a negative habit, you have to make it invisible. So if you're trying to stop smoking, for example, don't have cigarettes at home. Or if you're trying to stop eating junk, don't buy junk food. Simple. It's easier said than done, I know. But the moment you don't have it in sight, it gets a little easier, 1% easier to stop that habit. So with every day, it becomes easier. So keep it out of sight. You don't want to do it, you keep it out of sight. You make it unattractive. You can, again, reflect on this. You can write it down or you can type in the chat. How will you make a negative habit go away, your negative habit? How will you make it invisible? How will you make it unattractive? It shouldn't give you any satisfaction. Again, you make it unattractive by looking at the negative sides of that habit. You're probably even aware of the negative sides of the habit, like, for example, eating junk. I know it's not going to add any healthy, nutritious value to my health, or it's not going to make me active, but I still eat it. So I have to focus more on the negatives of that habit. The moment I see a packet of chips, I'm going to look at the label at the back, see, oh my God, it's not healthy because it has so many calories, it has so much salt, so I'm not going to eat it. So I focus on the unattractive part rather than thinking about the awesome taste that it gives. So I'm not focusing on the positive, I'm focused on the negative because I want to get rid of the negative habit. How will I make it difficult? So I stop buying it. And if I have to eat it, then I will probably make it very difficult for me to reach it. So it could be either that I tell myself, I will not eat it until 5 days or 15 days. It's just not easy for me, or I don't have money to buy it. Okay, so I make it difficult for myself. And then I make it unsatisfying. Every time I eat, probably I feel heavy. So I don't like it. I tell myself, no, I'm not going to do it. Now you have to apply this to all the negative habits that you want to change. Make it invisible, make it difficult, make it unattractive, and make it unsatisfying. This will hopefully help us over the period of time to get rid of the negative habit. Remember, it's not going to take one day. It's not going to happen overnight. You have to give yourself time, and you have to be consistent. You have to keep doing the same every day. That's how you hack your brain. So that brings me to the same thing that we started with. Your brain is plastic. The more you do something, the easier it gets. So just keep that in mind whenever you want to do something. Remember, you have the power to do what you want. So start a new positive habit, stick to it. Remember, your brain is getting wired and rewired with everything that you do. When babies are born, they're born with very faint neural connections. The connections between neurons are not that strong. But as they learn different things, when they learn to walk, when they learn to talk, the whole language that they learn, in the first 2 years, they are listening to so many words and they just learn to talk. They don't go to classes. They don't learn to write and learn a language, but they just pick up so quickly. How is that happening? Because your brain is constantly making connections between neurons. And the more we want that to happen, the more we need to do it. So if you could learn so many things in the first 2 years of your life, then we have spent so many years already on this planet, right? So we have more control over these things. We can, if we want to do something, do it again and again, and it just becomes easier. When I started driving, the first few days were just too much. It was so much to take in. I was not sure how to, give my attention to everything. But obviously, as all people know, when, those of you who drive, it gets easier. Within 6 months, you know already how comfortable you are driving, right? So give yourself that time, do it again and again, it gets easier. And that's it. So if we have any questions, we can discuss. If anyone wants to say anything, go ahead. Let me read what is in the chat. Fridge hygiene, no unnecessary unhealthy food. Yes, Merlin, definitely. Just don't have anything in your fridge. It stops tempting you, right? Right. So please share your ideas. How do you develop habits, stop old ones and start new ones? Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for wonderful presentation. I really learned a lot. And yes, habit loop is one which we have to break the patterns which we develop unconsciously, I can say, due to, from childhood we have these things. But thank you so much for wonderful, and surely share your mail ID so that we further can get in touch with you, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. I will put the mail ID in my chat.
Yeah, Munasa, it was a wonderful session. Yeah, friends, you can interact with Munasa. I think Suresh sir joined today. You can share knowledge for
I'm
habit
Munasa.
formation.
So, you started with this water, drinking water as a habit. And I used to deny myself water, especially when I was working with you, remember, in Hyderabad. I used to avoid, because I used to keep myself busy, and I used to avoid doing the basic necessities. And sometimes I used to even feel guilty that I'm, drinking water while talking to someone. And I was, stupid belief, like, why would you deny yourself basic necessity, because you're working or you're talking to someone? But right now, I made up my mind that I keep water everywhere. So, so I keep myself hydrated. So I keep, even for online meeting sessions, I keep drinking or sipping water all the time. No matter who's there on the meeting, I don't feel guilty of, having a sip or doing those things. So that's my habit has developed, over the years. I think past 1 year or 1.5 years, I think so.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing this, Merlin. And thank you for bringing this up, because this is so important. Sometimes we think what we're doing out of habit, or certain things that we want to develop as a habit, we stop because of societal pressures. We just pose it on ourselves. There's nothing wrong in drinking water while talking to someone, but we pose it on ourselves. We think it's disrespect. So these are nothing that we need to really think about. These are things that will it's not doing any harm to anyone. It's only helping you to be more hydrated and be more focused when you're talking to someone. So small things like this, we don't even think about, but then we feel the effect later on. So it's important to stay aware of the feelings and then the routines that you do, obviously. Yes. Thank you so much, Merlin.
Ma'am, I have one question.
Yes,
If I
Jyoti.
could.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I have this habit that if something upsets me, it's a very negative habit. If something upsets me, I keep thinking about it again and again. So that repeated pattern, it harms me. It's not harming anyone else. It's harming me. So how to develop the positive habit, replace it with the positive habit of let go. Though I do, at times I try to take it as a blessing by God in the form of disguise, but I want to develop a positive attitude, convert it into positive, and let go, forgive, forget, develop compassion for all beings. So how to develop that state?
Thank you, Jyoti. That's a very nice and valid question that most of us can relate to. When something upsets you, it's human nature to think about it and keep thinking about it and thinking and ruminating over it again and again and again. But then we all know it's not going to help in any way. So we tell ourselves, okay, let me not think about it. Let me forgive, forget, and be a very, very positive person. But that's also an extreme. We can't immediately when you're upset, you tell yourself, okay, let me forget. It's not going to happen. You have to give yourself some time. I always tell my students that our minds are like, I don't have one right now, but I always have a glitter jar with me. I'm sure a lot of psychologists here will know what a glitter jar is. It's full of glitter and water, and we see how the glitter keeps mixing. The more you shake it, the more it gets mixed, and we can't see through it. But the moment we leave it on the table for some time, the glitter settles, and then we can see through it. It's much more visible. And I tell my students that the mind is just like that. The more you're upset, the moment you're stressed or angry, your thoughts are all over the place, and it's not easy for you to think through it straight, and come to a very nice conclusion. It's not possible. So you have to give yourself some time. If you're thinking and you're not liking it, tell yourself, okay, I'm going to think about it for the next 10 minutes, but I have better things to do after that. So give yourself some time. Let your mind explore all those negative thoughts first. It's fine. But then after that, when it's not helping, it has to calm down. You don't even have to go to the extreme of thinking positive. That's not easy. So let yourself experience the negative thoughts, let it calm down, and then tell yourself, okay, I have had enough time thinking about it. Now I think I can. Letting go is also not very easy, but then I'm not as upset as I was 10 minutes ago or one day earlier. So you have to see that you have some progress in your thinking.
So ma'am, when I'm upset,
you're not as mad. So think about the progress that you're making.
When I'm upset, will acts of kindness help? The more I get upset, the more I should show acts of kindness to someone. If I'm getting angry with someone, I should go and hug that person. So that negative emotion, it will settle down. Like dirt in muddy water. When we leave it a glass aside, the mud settles down. And the water becomes clear on top. So if a negative emotion enters my mind regarding anyone, just go and give a big tight hug to that person so that those negative emotions are replaced. Because to err is human. And if we point one finger, I was taught in my convent that if you point one finger towards someone, your 4 fingers will point towards you, telling you that you have more flaws than that one person. So will that work?
That definitely works. Like we teach our children, or we teach ourselves also, to be nice, like be kind and not experience or not feel the negative emotions that much. It's always nice to be kind. It's nice to be good. You have to help others to feel better about yourself. All of that is fine. Everything accepted. But it is not humanly possible to think of all the positive emotions right when you're feeling upset. Okay. So you have to be practical about this. While you're experiencing a negative emotion, I would say there are very, very few people who can do it. But as common human beings, it's not easy for us to just snap out of a negative experience and say, now I'm going to go hug that person and feel better. If you do it and if it works, great, do it. But not always, right? Sometimes the moment someone says something negative about us, it hurts us and we are upset. We can't even think of going and hugging that person at that moment. If you can, fantastic, do it. But if you can't, because the other person is also probably mad at you at that time, they will also need some time to relax. Or, you going and giving a hug at that moment probably would just shock that person even more, and they might, yell more at you. So at that moment, just disconnect yourself for a moment. When I say disconnect with the present situation. Understand that your emotions are valid. You feel upset because of what happened, and it's absolutely fine. But give yourself some time, and then when you feel better, you feel okay, I'm not as upset as I was. That's when you go back and address it. So that's when you go and do the acts of kindness. Okay, so there's a negative, there's a positive, but in between you have to give yourself some time. Now that time can probably be 30 seconds, 30 minutes, or even 30 days. It's up to you. How faster you make that progress is individual. I might take like 3 days to overcome something that happened, or someone else might just take 30 minutes, and that's absolutely different for everyone. So first understand, okay, how long do I think negative about whatever happens? If I have a negative experience, do I take forever to come out of it? Am I feeling better after 2 days? Keep a track of all these things. You have to reflect on how much time you think negative, and then you know the pattern. And then once you know, okay, now I feel better, let me go back and fix, or let me go back and do something positive now. Obviously the positive is going to add on to more positivity in your life, that's for sure. But don't expect yourself to be a great human being and immediately snap out of it and be nice to the other person. It's not very easy, I would say. But yeah, give it a try, definitely.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mobile phone. You're welcome, Jyoti. Mobile phone, yes, definitely. It's one of the most difficult habit to leave, I would say. Internet addiction, by the way, there was a talk about adding internet addiction as a form of disorder. In psychology, they were planning to put it up as a form of disorder. But then because it's so prevalent, it's everywhere, not a single person is left out. They have not added it officially as a form of disorder, but I personally believe it should be added because it's just too much. It's ruining your personal life. So if you feel there is a lot of dependence on mobile phones or internet, then you have to take 1% every day. If you can stop yourself, or the person who is addicted to the use of mobile phones can stop themselves for like 15 minutes every day. You tell yourself, I'm not going to use my phone from so and so time. That's all. You don't have to tell yourself, oh, I'm too dependent, but I can't come out of it. All that will go on in your minds. But just tell yourself, okay, 15 minutes every day, and that's all. No, not even every day. Today, 15 minutes, that's all. The next day you think about it again and do it for 15 minutes. Then the next day. And after a while, you're comfortable with that 15 minutes. Then you slowly add on 20 minutes. And then you continue for at least 10 to 12 days like that. So it is possible to change the habit of overuse of mobile phone, but you have to know that you need to change it in the first place. If you're not aware of the problems, then you won't change it. So first being aware, then trying 1% change every day will help, but be consistent. Thank you everyone for writing such positive things in the chat. You have the feedback form, please fill them as well. Is there anything I did not respond to? Ms. Bhagyalakshmi, you can always write to me on my email ID. I shared it in the chat. If there's anything I can help you with, I'll be happy to do it.
Yeah, a lot of positive comments in chat box, Munaza.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah. It was a wonderful session, how to develop healthy habits. You beautifully explained with day-to-day life activities. I think no other doubts. Berlin, you can go for VOT.
Yeah, so Munaza, on behalf of the Deccan Positive Mental Health and all of us gathered over here, I would like to extend a warm thank you to you and for your, a very in-depth preparation on habits and how to develop healthy habits. So it was very insightful. You explained in a very simplistic manner, and you gave a lot of examples to go with every concept. And that's very nice, so that we could relate to those concepts, on a daily basis where we can apply it. And you gave it two simple, methods or ways to develop or maybe get rid of unwanted habits, develop healthy habits and get rid of unwanted habits. Like you make it difficult, make it invisible, make it, unattractive, and the opposite for developing healthy habits. So I think this is something consciously that most of us will take care of now onwards, because it's not easy to develop any habit. But these two principles or methods gives us more clarity. Like, okay, now I can make it unattractive, or I can make it attractive if I want to develop some habit. So we will, I'm sure that all of us over here who gathered here will benefit a lot from these practices, and will consciously, use it to get rid of those habits which are affecting us on a daily basis, or add some new habits which are going to help us, develop a healthy mind and body and soul. So thank you so much for this, session, and you've always been very cheerful, enthusiastic. So today you went above and beyond to also discuss something more than just habits, on emotional management. So thanks a lot for all of that, and I wish you all the best. Thank you, and thank you everyone. Thanks to the audience.
Yeah. Thank you, Madeline. Thank you, Manasa.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Merlin, for the kind words. Thank you. And thank you so much, everyone, for attending, spending 1 hour to learn how to change habits. I hope it's easy for all of us. I'm not perfect, and I'm also learning. These things just remind us. These are the small things that we need to just have a reminder about. So thank you, everyone, and hope you have a nice day. Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye. Good night.